Welcome back to Global Eye. Today, we're uncovering the heartbreaking truth behind one of comedy's greatest icons. Jim Carrey, now 63 years old, has spent 4 decades making the world laugh with his rubber-faced comedy, his manic energy, and his unforgettable characters. From Ace Ventura to The Mask, from The Truman Show to Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Carrey gave us performances that defined a generation, but behind every wild facial expression, behind every perfectly timed joke, was a man fighting battles most people never saw in November 2024. Jim lost his older sister Rita at age 68. She was his 3rd sibling to die, following brother John in 2019. In 2015, his girlfriend took her own life, triggering lawsuits that would haunt him for years. His childhood was marked by poverty so severe his family lived in a van, with 14-year-old Jim working as a janitor while battling undiagnosed dyslexia and ADHD. And throughout his entire adult life, Carrey has fought depression so severe that he once described it as his body saying it. Didn't want to be Jim Carrey anymore at 63. After announcing retirement in 2022 and then unretiring because he needed money, Jim Carrey faces a crossroads. The man who made millions laugh is still learning how to find his own peace. If you're new here, subscribe and hit that notification bell because this is about the cost of comedy, the weight of making others happy when you're drowning inside, and how even the funniest person in the room can be the saddest. Let's begin. Jim Carrey grew up constantly afraid his parents, who were heavy smokers, were going to die. He remembered locking himself in the bathroom and crying because he thought they wouldn't survive. With his parents banging on the door telling him to come out, his mother would make death seem imminent, telling 7-year-old Jim at dinner, "My brain is deteriorating at an incredible rate," or "My angina's acting up. I could go at any time." These statements would shake him to the core, planting seeds of anxiety and fear that would grow into lifelong depression. When Jim's father Percy lost his stable accounting job, the family plunged into poverty. At 14, Jim and his siblings worked 8-hour shifts as janitors and security guards at a factory after school. Jim went from being a strata student to not wanting to know anybody's name, not wanting to make a friend. The family experienced homelessness, living in a van at times while Percy worked at a tire factory trying to keep them afloat. These weren't just difficult circumstances. These were formative traumas that taught young Jim that safety was an illusion, that success could vanish overnight, and that the people you love most will eventually leave you. Comedy became his survival mechanism, his way of bringing light into a household drowning in fear and financial stress. He would practice faces in the mirror for hours, perfecting the expressions that would one day make him famous, because making his sick mother laugh was the only time she seemed okay. These childhood experiences inspired Carrey to write the 2013 children's book How Roland Rolls, which tackles serious topics affecting young people. But writing about trauma doesn't heal it. Those wounds from childhood, the fear of loss, and the instability, would follow Jim into every relationship and every success, always whispering that it could all disappear. When Jim Carrey spoke to iNews in 2017, he admitted he went through several bouts of serious depression in his life. Speaking to CBS in 2004, he shared that he initially used an antidepressant to cope but feared a lifelong addiction, so he stopped taking it. He explained he was at a low level of despair, where he could happily get through the day without knowing the reason behind his sadness. But Jim's most profound insight came when he reframed depression entirely. He said, "Depression is your body saying, F*** you. I don't want to be this character anymore. This avatar that you have created in the world is too much for me. You should think of the word as deep rest. Your body needs to be depressed. It needs deep rest from the character you've been trying to play." Think about what that means. Jim Carrey, one of the most recognizable entertainers on earth, was saying that Jim Carrey itself was a character, a performance he'd been giving since childhood. The manic energy, the constant humor, the rubber-faced expressions. All of it was a mask he wore so effectively that people forgot there was a real human being underneath. And that real human being was exhausted, depressed, desperate to stop performing. Carrey admitted he was depressed after playing Andy Kaufman in Man on the Moon. Asking himself, if I can put Jim Carrey aside for 4 months, who is Jim Carrey? Who the hell is that? There was even a documentary, Jim and Andy, The Great Beyond, exploring how completely Jim disappeared into Kaufman and the devastating effects it had on his depression. Method acting took what was already a fragile identity and shattered it completely. At this point, I don't have depression. There is not an experience of depression, he said in 2017. I had that for years. But now, when the rain comes, it rains. But it doesn't stay. It doesn't stay long enough to immerse me and drown me anymore. That's progress, but it's also a reminder that depression is something Jim manages daily, not something he's conquered. Jim Carrey's relationship with makeup artist Catriona White, whom he met on a film set in 2012, made headlines for its controversial and tragic nature. They bonded over shared struggles with depression, to people who understood the darkness inside each other. Their relationship was on and off, intense and complicated. But White was someone Jim connected with deeply. In September 2015, Catriona White tragically took her own life by overdosing on prescription drugs. And Carrey was a pallbearer at her funeral. A note found after her death, but written years prior, revealed the depth of her pain. For Jim, losing someone he loved to the same depression he'd been fighting his entire life was devastating. He understood her pain intimately, and that understanding made the loss even more unbearable. In 2016, White's estranged husband Mark Burton and her mother Bridget Sweetman sued Carrey for wrongful death, claiming he had infected White with 3 STDs without warning her, and had supplied her with the painkillers she used to take her life. The lawsuits painted Jim as responsible for her death, accusing him of contributing to her depression and providing the means for her suicide. The accusations were brutal and public, turning Jim's grief into a legal and PR nightmare. For 2 years, he fought the lawsuits while also processing the loss and the guilt. In 2018, the lawsuits were dismissed, but the damage was done. Jim had lost someone he cared about, been publicly accused of causing her death, and had to defend himself against claims that attacked both his character and his relationship with Catriona. The tragedy wasn't just her death. It was that 2 people struggling with depression found each other, tried to help each other, and ultimately couldn't save each other. And then Jim had to watch as her family blamed him. As the media turned their relationship into scandal, as his private grief became public entertainment. In November 2024, Jim's older sister Rita Carey passed away at age 68. Following the 2019 death of his brother John from aplastic anemia, insiders said Jim was devastated, with the actor rarely seen publicly outside obligations. He's grieving deeply. Family was his anchor, one source told outlets. Rita wasn't just Jim's sister. She was his connection to his childhood, to the poverty and struggle they'd survived together. She remembered the van they lived in, the factory where they worked as teenagers, the fear they both felt watching their father struggle to support them. Losing Rita meant losing one of the few people who truly understood where Jim came from, who knew him before he was Jim Carrey, the movie star. John's death from aplastic anemia in 2019 had already devastated Jim. Aplastic anemia is a rare condition, where the body stops producing enough blood cells, often requiring bone marrow transplants and intensive treatment. John's death was slow and painful, giving Jim time to process that he was losing his brother, but no ability to stop it. And now, Rita was gone too, leaving Jim as one of the few remaining Carrey siblings. The survivors of a childhood marked by trauma and loss. A viral YouTube video uploaded November 6, 2025, has amassed millions of views by chronicling his recent losses, mental health struggles, and reluctant return to acting amid rumors of depleted finances. The timing is significant. Jim lost Rita, faced questions about his financial situation, and had to confront mortality and legacy in ways he hadn't before. At 63, death isn't abstract. It's real, it's coming, and Jim has already lost too many people he loved. In 2022, Jim told Access Hollywood he would be walking away from acting to focus on his personal life, though he was quick to note he hadn't drawn a line in the sand and wouldn't turn down any irresistible gigs in the future. It seemed like a graceful exit, a comedy legend retiring on his terms after decades of success. But then came the uncomfortable truth. Carrey emerged from semi-retirement for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, 2024. Jokingly telling reporters he returned, "Because I need the money, frankly, after buying a lot of stuff." He clarified 2022 retirement. Remarks as power resting, But analysts note his $180 million net worth may have dwindled from lavish spending and market dips. That statement, "I need the money," shocked fans. Jim Carrey was once the highest-paid actor in Hollywood, commanding $20 million per film. How could he need money? But the reality is that $180 million, while a massive amount, can disappear through lavish spending, bad investments, market crashes, and the general cost of maintaining a celebrity lifestyle. Jim had purchased expensive properties, invested in art, lived well, and apparently hadn't been as financially conservative as he needed to be. The tragedy here isn't poverty. Jim isn't struggling to eat or pay rent. The tragedy is that for decades of making people laugh, after sacrificing his mental health to his career, after becoming one of the most recognizable faces in entertainment, Jim Carrey had to come out of retirement, not because he wanted to, but because he needed the paycheck. That's not how legends are supposed to go out. Speaking to The Hollywood Reporter in 2018, the actor shared he wanted to quit acting shortly after he rose to fame. Although Carrey's net worth exponentially increased at the time, he ultimately felt he couldn't bow down to industry-manufactured rules created by major movie studios. So Jim has spent decades wanting to quit, trying to quit, and being pulled back because of money, because of obligation, because leaving isn't as simple as just walking away. Jim told 60 Minutes about his spiritual journey. "Jesus, I'm a Buddhist. I'm a Muslim. I'm a Christian. I'm whatever you want me to be. It all comes down to the same thing. You are either in a loving place or you are in an unloving place. If you are with me right now, you cannot be unhappy." Since going public about his struggles, Carrey has surrounded himself with a spiritual lifestyle, ensuring he stays true to himself through meditation and self-reflection. This spiritual seeking isn't a phase or a publicity stunt. It's Jim trying to find meaning in a life that achieved every external marker of success but left him feeling empty. He became famous, he became rich, he made millions laugh, and he was still depressed, still searching, still asking, "Who am I?" After decades of being Jim Carrey, in fact, his so-called strange behavior in recent interviews can be credited to his spiritualism. Basically, he no longer cares about playing the person everyone wants to see. He's much happier in his own skin, doing what he wants. Jim has given bizarre red carpet interviews where he talks about meaninglessness and consciousness, confusing reporters who expected typical celebrity sound bites. But those moments are Jim being authentic for perhaps the first time in his public life, refusing to perform the Jim Carrey character everyone expects. He believes depression is legitimate, but also says, if you don't exercise, eat nutritious food, get sunlight, get enough sleep, consume positive material, surround yourself with support, then you aren't giving yourself a fighting chance. After quitting Prozac, abstaining from alcohol and drugs, and limiting coffee, Jim found his mental wellness improved. It's not a cure, but it's management. A daily practice of choosing wellness over the darkness that's always waiting. Jim once bombed so badly during a stand-up set that he finally got off stage to huge applause. Just because I mentioned I was going to leave the stage, he got in the car and cried all the way home because I don't want to make people unhappy. That statement is devastating. Jim's entire existence has been built around not wanting to make people unhappy, around taking on the burden of others' joy, even when it destroys him. Despite everything, when Carrey reflected on the sadder aspects of his life, he felt some happiness in knowing he had gotten through it all. That's not triumph, that's survival. Jim Carrey survived his childhood. He survived homelessness. He survived depression. He survived losing people he loved. He survived becoming famous. And now, at 63, he's trying to figure out what comes next. All of Jim Carrey's serious romantic relationships have eventually ended. His longest relationship was his marriage to Melissa Womer, which ended in 1995 after 7 years. Shortly after that, Carrey tied the knot with his Dumb and Dumber co-star Lauren Holly, and their marriage lasted less than a year. Jim has a daughter, Jane, and a grandson, but his personal life has been marked by impermanence, by relationships that couldn't survive his depression and his career. The tragedy of Jim Carrey is that comedy cost him everything personal to give the world something communal. We got to laugh. He got to be alone with his depression. We got unforgettable characters. He lost his sense of self. We got entertainment. He got trauma, and now, at 63, after losing siblings and partners and years to depression, Jim is still trying to figure out who he is when he's not performing for anyone else. At 63, the tragedy of Jim Carrey is that the man who made the world laugh struggled to find his own joy. From childhood poverty to adult depression, from losing loved ones to losing himself in characters, Jim has paid a price most people never see for the gift he gave us all. But he's still here, still fighting, still searching for meaning and peace. In 2024, Carrey emphasized his ongoing commitment to self-acceptance and avoiding substances. He shared, "I had that for years, but now when the rain comes, it rains, but it doesn't stay." That's growth. That's hope. That's a man who's learned to survive depression rather than be destroyed by it. Jim Carrey's story reminds us that making others happy doesn't mean you're happy yourself, that success doesn't cure pain, and that even comedy legends are human beings fighting battles we'll never fully understand. What's your perspective on Jim's journey? Share respectfully in the comments. If this moved you, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching, and remember, it's okay to not be okay, even when you're making everyone else laugh.